Greetings to this beautiful kitchen. We are here today at Welbilt's new office. I have two prominent figures of Welbilt with me today. I have Mr. Leonard Lam. He's the MD for Welbilt APAC region, and Mr. William Fletcher, VP Sales for New Zealand, Australia, and Southeast Asia. Welcome, gents. How are you guys feeling today?
Good, Ricky. How are you?
Fantastic. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So, how has the move been for you? And it's a new office. How has it been?
Exciting.
Exciting.
Even in the pandemic, we made the investment to move here. We call it the Customer Experience Center. So, as the name suggests, it is to bring in, let our customers come in, experience our equipment, and try the menus here, the food. So I think that's the most important element. And obviously for our people, right? Give them a new office, a comfortable office to work in. So that's been exciting.
Yep, absolutely. I think it was a bit of a challenge, but I think we got there. We mobilized a strategic team to execute the move, and despite the pandemic, I think the move was smooth.
Good to hear. Now, we are here to do a podcast. Thank you for being first people on my podcast, let's put it that way. So basically for the audience people, the podcast is basically just to talk about F&B in Singapore or even in the world itself. So today we are doing a special topic. It's a specific topic that we're talking about is what's the next big thing in F&B in terms of equipment. So Mr. Leonard, why don't we start off with you first? What's your thoughts of the equipment and how you see it going?
Ricky, when we last met, it seemed like a long time ago, but it was like a year ago when we had, when we moved into this phase of working from home, and we did a podcast together, and it was all virtual, right? We weren't sitting together. At that time we were transitioning, right, to a new phase in F&B, and it was no dine-in, right? We were all takeaway deliveries, and at that time we were focused very much about how do you execute that, right? How do you move from a dining experience to a delivery and a takeaway? And at that time, we talked about our concept about breaking the 30-minute barrier, right? How do you get the food out there in a fast, high-quality manner? But I think as we and the business has reacted, right? The industry has reacted to it very well, right? But now we say your question is what's the next big thing?
Yeah.
And to me, I think dine-in will come back, right? And a lot of people ask, what's going to happen? I said it's not a matter of if dine-in will come back; it's a matter of when, and it will come back. We've seen that in China, for example. They had a short downturn, and then it came back quickly. China is almost back to normal. The other one where we have got lots of statistics is the US, right? And the US is entering a phase. Now they're entering the summer, the summer season. Vaccinations are up. So the latest statistics in the US from our colleagues there is that dine-in is about just shy of 15% of pre-pandemic levels. So that's quite significant, right? From going from no dine-in now to almost 15%, just shy of pre-pandemic levels. That's telling us that consumers are dying to go back to restaurants. So in our view is how are our operators going to respond to this return to dine-in? Right? So I think we at Welbilt are trying to figure it out. And obviously you talk about equipment, but we cannot talk about equipment without talking about the customer experience.
Sure.
Right, and William's got thoughts about, we have different thoughts about different elements of that customer experience. Last year when we talked about, when we entered the pandemic, there were 5 elements in our view. There was obviously the food, right, the food and the beverage, people preparing the food, equipment, the infrastructure, right, your premises, and how we deliver that food. So those are 5 elements that all influences the customer experience. And I think one of them that is predominantly very important is the food element.
Yeah.
The pandemic has taught us a lot of things. The demographics of people consuming food has changed, right? Even the baby boomers, the slightly more elderly have gone into ordering food through apps. So menus have changed. And one of the things that we are looking at is what's happening to the operators' P&L as they return to work. The pandemic has hit a lot of operators. So when they come back as they recover, how are they going to respond? And that influences how we also respond in terms of equipment. So I think food is important, and from my point of view, I think food is trying to figure out in terms of your costs. Are you diversifying your supply chain in terms of getting materials in? Is your menu too wide, too big, right? And thirdly, it's about food waste.
Correct.
So those are three elements of food which I think is important as we go back into the dine-in phase.
You've talked about the breaking the 30 minutes barrier. Could you elaborate more, or what do you mean by that? Like in terms of food deliveries to the cooking method. That's the last conversation we had. So maybe just rewind back a bit and talk more about what you mean by actually breaking the 30-minute barrier.
It's the ability for us, the operator, to deliver high quality food to the consumer within that period of time, right? Be it in a dining experience or takeaway or delivery, right? Anything above 30 minutes, people get frustrated. All of us use apps, right? We flick through and say, wow, you wait for something 1 hour, will you order? Man, no, next.
Correct.
With a swipe of a finger, you do that.
And the quality deteriorates.
Yeah.
So I think breaking the 30-minute barrier is really critical. Take a playbook of the fast food chains. They are well played in that space. So they have food that travel well. They have speed of service that is part of the key deliverables that they have to ensure. So if you take a leaf out of that playbook, and as Welbilt, where we bring the customer in to experience what these ovens can do to achieve breaking the 30-minute barrier, delivering on time and food that travels well, in the end, people are social creatures.
Yeah.
So if people are forced to dine in, then you want something that's still really nice to eat, not something that's soggy.
Yeah.
So I think that's, to us, where that pain point is right now when we have dining experience, right? So I think to your point earlier is what's it going to be like after the pandemic and when dining resumes. And so Leonard mentioned in China we've seen almost back to some normalcy, right? In the US we are seeing that trend as well. And I look after a big area, right? So I see the diversity of how Southeast Asia is coping and how Australia and New Zealand is coping. And I must say that Australia and New Zealand has coped very well. We see it in the numbers. We see it in the trends that happen, right? Where people are accustomed to dining in despite the varying lockdowns. And food operators have reacted to it, right? So they are going more into automation, how to deliver food consistently, time and time again.
Correct.
So at the end of the day, I think it only gets better when dining resumes.
Yeah.
Right. I think to Leonard's key point is what's the takeaway, right? Wastage. I think you got to build on that. The food wastage is something that can deliver you returns on where you have the leakage in your food costs.
Sure.
Right. And with commodity costs that's rising, inflationary measures that's going on globally, I think we need to look at where the leakages are and help the customers address them.
Okay. Coming back to the Singapore point of view, something that we noticed in Singapore that's picking up as well as one thing is Ghost Kitchen. What's your thoughts on Ghost Kitchen, as well as now they call it Cloud Kitchen, Dark Kitchen, and Ghost Kitchen? What's your thoughts on those?
I think it's not a new concept, right? It's in central kitchens. It's always been there, right? It's about centralized cooking, spreading out into satellites. So I think it's not new. I think it will grow, right?
Yeah.
I think we will grow. Operators need to figure out also the P&L dynamics of it.
Correct.
Very important, right? If everybody rush into it, so I think that's still very relevant in Singapore.
I think Ghost Kitchen is going to continue. Call it what you will, Ghost Kitchen, Dark Kitchen, right? But with app that's now become the disruptor with
Correct.
apps. So you see different forces in play that are starting to operate Ghost Kitchen, where in the past there were individual brands, but today I think the app operators or the delivery guys are running those Ghost Kitchens.
Now coming back to speed and time again, something that I believe we can't be cooking the traditional way anymore because of the speed. So something that maybe one of your trade secrets you can share with me, it's on how can we do a 3-minute, like order a pizza or carbonara, pasta, sorry. Do you believe it can be done in 3 minutes? I know I heard that's like a trade secret that can you share with us?
Well, absolutely. I think a lot of it is preparation,
Sure.
right? And doing all the steps that you need to have, which in typical culinary terminology we call it mise en place, right? So if you prepare according to your menu and according to the trend that you foresee, and you cook to inventory that based on your forecast, then I think it's a deliverable with the technologies that we have. And I've got a chef here, and we made him famous for a 2-minute chili crab. You can really illustrate and show the potential customers what we can do with the technology. And at the end of the day, what do we want to address? We want to address speed of service, right? So if an operator can serve more customers with a given time, when it's a peak meal time, then there's more revenue for them to recognize, right? So that's where we look at the growth side of the business. So to Leonard's point is on inflationary costs and food wastage, right? So if you couple all this together, right, then at least operators can see that whatever cost increases that are mitigated and wastages that are mitigated can be realized with more sales and consistently same quality food that is delivered.
Just adding to what William said about food wastage, right? So, if you think about a typical F&B operation, food costs maybe 30%, right?
Yeah.
About 20-30%. In the last 10 years, just in Singapore context, right?
Yeah.
Food wastage has grown 20%.
Wow.
20%, right? So you take 20% times 30%, that's 6% of food that you actually can waste, right? Very, very crude calculations. And for most F&B operations, that 6% is your margin, total margin. So when operators come back and they figure out, how can I improve my margins? That's one thing, right? Food wastage, as I said just now, is your menu too wide? Have I got too many things on my menu that I waste? Do I prepare too much at the beginning? William mentioned about mise en place, right? Are you preparing it, in bulk or in single portion? How do you cook? Are you cooking in bulk cooking, or are you doing portion cooking? So those are the questions that operators need to ask, and you can only do that with speed, right?
Sure.
You need to do it quickly. It's not these are combi ovens, but we do have our Mary Chef speed ovens that does that, or probably out of view, the Lincoln not here, never mind. Which addresses the speed, because you want to do that 30-minute, breaking the 30-minute barrier. That cooking time has to be reduced, otherwise you'll never meet that target.
Correct. Coming back now with the current pandemic we are facing, now a lot of things, people are with social distancing in the kitchen as well. So what's your thoughts on how does equipment come and play for that from your perspective?
In terms of the social distancing?
Social distancing, speed cooking and everything, because now everything has to be hygiene and everything.
Absolutely.
So is there anything how things are not going back to normal? Kitchen is not being operated in the same way it used to. Now with social distancing, everything, how does equipment play a part?
I think that's a very good point, because food safety, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, should never be compromised, right? So I think that's where I think the emphasis on food safety is really high up there, even more so now than before, right?
Okay.
And some of our equipment, we've been really narrating this for years and years, and it's like, if I may, the Convertum Max. So the handles and the control panel, these are all the touch points.
Sure.
Where the chef and the operators are going to touch. And these have been already coated with the silver ions, right? So it's a bacteria inhibited handle and panel.
Okay.
So that the proliferation of bacteria is minimized, right? And obviously you still need to keep cleaning them. But compared to a regular handle, when you open a door and you sanitize your hand, this has already been treated. So this is just one of the examples that we've been preaching for years and years. And I think with food safety right now in mind, social distancing, as you mentioned, I think this is even more important now than before.
Okay.
Right.
Now, you have quite a wide range of brands and other equipments that you feature.
Absolutely.
Anything you would like to pull out? Like you mentioned Mary Chef, you mentioned your Kabia ovens. Anything else that you like to bring out and mention in terms of the other 12 brands or products?
Well, I think if you look at the holistic part of the space in the kitchen, right? I think it's got to be a good design kitchen, right? Good HVAC, minimize the steps where the operator takes from taking the food from the chillers to the oven and to the pickup area. So essentially, even more, you need good designs.
Correct.
Right? Because if you can have a good design, then that sort of also takes away the risk of cross-contamination and thereby addresses your food safety concerns.
Sure.
I got one point to add.
Sure.
In terms of the equipment side, I think it's technology.
Yeah.
IoT is one, right? We talk about that a lot. But I think now this is just the Computer Max that we introduced last year. It's a controller. So previously you said we've got 12 brands of equipment. We're starting off the idea that all our equipment needs to be born digital.
Correct.
Such that our equipment can talk to each other. You can see how much energy the oven's using.
Yeah.
So energy cost, that's very important. And the ability for the operators to make it easy to use. So if I use a combi oven or I use the fryer next to it, the controllers will be exactly the same. So training time is shortened, right? I don't have to relearn every piece of equipment. Me as an operator can see how each of the equipment are doing. So that really focuses on managing your costs, managing the variety of things you do in the ovens. So IoT is here to stay. It's not going away.
And to build on that, Leonard, I think that's a good point. It also addresses HACCP, right? So with IoT and all the equipment that's connected,
correct.
If any piece of equipment breaches the critical temperature zones, right, there's an alert to the chefs, right? So I think that's also another key intrinsic point on ensuring food safety.
Okay.
With a connected kitchen.
So we have speed, now we have hygiene. What is next? What is now, once everything is done, what is Welbilt going into? Is there something that you can share with me? What is the next project? What's the next equipment that you're looking into?
I think what we see trending is convenience, right? And we see a lot of convenience store, really moving and shifting gears. And I've seen in the space in Australia especially where convenience stores are moving to having customers interface with the equipment to make a frappe or a smoothie, right? So I think that's going to continue to trend because minimize interaction with people. So they interact with the device, right? And we have such equipment that is already coming online to address that sort of trends.
Sure.
Yep.
Now we talk about, let's say, Asia and a global perspective. Is there trends picking up at different regions, or is it like chefs across the board are taking on a common stand towards a certain product or a certain way, or it's like Asia is different, Australia, New Zealand is different? Is there like a difference that people are seeing?
I think, as I mentioned, the region is very diverse.
Yeah.
So what we see in China that's trending may be different from what we see in Southeast Asia, right? And what we see in Australia and New Zealand. So I think in a nutshell, what we see is more, businesses shifting to deliveries, the ability to deliver. So with our portfolio, from combi ovens, speed oven to conveyor ovens, this sort of equipment addresses those pain points and deliverables for the chefs.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, before I end it, personal question: what's your favorite food app to use?
Oh, sensitive. It's called My Wife's Cooking.
Understood.
There you go.
All right, we've come to the end. I'd like to thank you so much for being part of our first podcast. And thank you everyone for watching. Mr. Leonard, anything before?
No, thank you. Thank you for having us today.
Yeah.
It was our pleasure, and thanks for having us as well. And
Sure.
we look forward to the next podcast.
For sure. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.